Hello and welcome back to Carlos and Lisa. I'm Lisa Remillard.
And I'm Carlos Ramezcua. De-escalation and excessive force are terms we hear a lot about when we talk about law enforcement. But there's a new tool that could de-escalate police confrontations while also reducing the chance to hurt a suspect.
It's called the BolaWrap. You might have heard about it, you might have seen it. And starting in February, more than 500 officers with the Los Angeles Police Department will be giving it a 90-day trial.
Yeah, the LAPD is among 15 law enforcement agencies here in California and more than 100 agencies in the U.S. testing out this wrap. Take a look at how it works.
It looks like something that Batman uses, honestly. So when confronted by a suspect, an officer deploys this handheld device. It sounds like a gunshot, but it's actually shooting out this Kevlar tether, which wraps around a person's torso and legs and keeps them from running. And it can work up to about 25 feet away. So if your distance is about 25 feet.
Yeah, you can see how it's really interesting. The BolaWrap was created by Tom Smith. He says it's not surprising this BolaWrap is being compared to a superhero tool, like you just said, since he was actually inspired by Hollywood.
A lot of times you look at what Hollywood's doing, they're kind of a forecast of what's going to come in the future. And you mentioned Batman and Spider-Man. Those are tools that these guys use to end those confrontations without hurting people. And so this is our version of that tool.
So the goal with BolaWrap is to defuse a threat without hurting, as we said, the suspect, the person getting wrapped up, or without causing any kind of long-term negative side effects, something that has been a criticism in the past of other things that police have used, like their baton or a taser.
Yeah, well, Tom actually, this guy that we were talking to, actually found a taser years ago with his brother. And if you've ever seen a taser used like this, you know it works by immobilizing a person with some pretty significant degree of pain. And that's the same with pepper spray or tear gas. There's no way you can get around the pain part of that.
Yeah, haven't you been tased before as a part of a story?
I was tased once for a story, and I was wearing a vest, and so the vest got most of the electrical charge. That was to not hurt me.
Right.
But I'll tell you what, it's pretty powerful.
It's pretty powerful.
It knocks you down,
well,
and it does hurt.
Of course it does. Yeah. I mean, it of course de-escalates situations, but at the same time, there are some negative side effects to the taser. So that's why this BolaWrap is an interesting new step in kind of the ability to wrap up a suspect without the pain.
Yeah.
So the BolaWrap is already, though, as you would imagine, facing some criticism from civil rights groups. They are concerned that this is just another tool that police can use and hurt potential suspects.
Well, this organization that's called Human Rights Watch said on its website, quote, "This new weapon raises serious concerns in the context of over-policing in the United States. There's a great danger that police will use it more frequently than necessary, especially on people with mental health conditions, and given historic police discrimination, black and brown people."
So when we talked with Tom, we brought this up. You know, the fact that there is criticism, obviously, of this, just like any other police tool.
Like all the things that they use.
Right,
yeah.
and he said, you know, that the idea behind it, well, one was to not have anything that inflicts actual pain, like a taser or a baton. But two, he said, especially for the people that have mental illness, he said it's really, it would be a good alternative to try and subdue them, to try and get them under control. Because sometimes, as you know, when there's a mental illness, and we used to cover stories like this all the time, when a suspect is out and, you know, flailing around a weapon and you can't get them under control, this might be a really good
They can
option.
hurt themselves, they can, just as well as they can hurt the police officers who are confronting the situation. So they're trying just to minimize that thing. But like anything else, it has to be used correctly.
This company was really developed around being used originally on mentally ill. My mom has Alzheimer's, so I've seen the effects personally of these people not understanding simple commands. And sometimes if they're posing a threat to themselves or others, you're going to have to take them into custody. This tool was designed to be able to do that without pain compliance. And I think if we can work with those groups and they understand the concerns, then I think we're going to be able to move forward together and develop even more products in the future that don't use pain compliance or, again, reduce the force required.
So, Tom, you heard him say, he mentioned the mentally ill, and about 25% of deadly police-involved shootings happen with somebody who has some sort of mental health issue. The BolaWrap, he says, will hopefully bring that percentage, that death toll down.
And as far as pain, we even asked Tom if he'd use the wrap on his mother if necessary, and he said he'd absolutely prefer the wrap over other means to subdue a person. And I think that, you know, the police departments all across the country are always looking for new ways to engage or disengage, de-escalate, all of this stuff, because they're confronted with situations that every situation is different, but they all have one thing in common, that is they have to minimize the threat to the public. Their job is to protect us, not necessarily protect the perpetrator who's perpetrating whatever disturbance that is, and they have to assess whether the person's mentally ill, just a downright bad person who's a criminal who may hurt people around him or the police. So they have to make all these instant decisions, and so they've been given all these tools, and they have to be trained to use them.
Right, and I mean, Human Rights Watch makes a good point that, you know, sometimes police officers are human beings too, and sometimes they get scared in that situation just like we would get scared, and sometimes things happen, and that's why we have a lot of these incidents that occur and people end up losing their lives. So hopefully with a type of technology that has a non-lethal end result, it might help reduce at least those numbers that we keep seeing.
But the question is, I mean, do they pull the taser out? Do they pull their pistol out? Their service revolver, as they call it, or do they pull out the bowl? I mean, there's a lot of choices for these guys.
Right. I mean, and sometimes the problem is too many choices. And like, which one do I pull out?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
But that's why Tom says that these officers are trained in this. And he says, in fact, that the training on the BolaWrap is a lot less than they need for any of the other things, including the taser, which he also invented. And the BolaWrap is already in use in several police stations and sheriff's offices throughout the state of California and throughout the country. And Tom says it appears to be what it's meant to do.
So far, the responses have been phenomenal from the departments that are using it. We've had it used in Fresno and in Fort Worth in the field, and the officers were really excited because, again, it allows them to affect their job and not cause an injury to a suspect.
Yeah, the truth is they don't want to hurt the suspect.
Of course not.
They really don't. They really are interested in de-escalating. Unless there's an immediate threat to them and they can sense it, then they pull out their service revolver. So this is just interesting to see. Some other benefits, cost and training time, as you said. Tom says an officer can learn to use this BolaWrap in about 90 minutes. As for financial, the actual unit and training is between $1,000 and $1,200, so it's not expensive.
Not compared to everything else, you know, and the training time and effort that it takes to do that. So the LAPD is testing this out in the next 90 days in all precincts. Tom hopes the feedback from the department as a whole will help shape the next generation of the wrap and will help perhaps make this one of these types of weapons that can be used throughout the country.
It's ingenious. You watch this thing wrap itself around your body like that, and it does stun for a second.
Well, I asked him, when I was talking with him, you remember, I asked him about how does it hook onto you, and he did say there are little, he said it's like a little tiny fish hook at the end of that. At the end of the little, the little ball at the end, there's like a little fish hook that just like, he says, but it mostly goes on your clothes. It won't puncture the skin unless you're wearing shorts or whatever at the time.
Well, we've seen enough car chases to see people who run. A BolaWrap like that would really, just to stop them from running, stop them from moving completely.
You can't go. And it's less painful and causes less long-term injury, at least at this point, before we have more testing, than a taser would. Then obviously a bullet.
Yeah,
exactly. Okay, so very interesting. Know that it'll be on the street, and that LAPD in this area and other places, I know they're using them, testing them in Houston as well. So there will be a lot of officers that'll have them on their person. So it might be a thing.
So when the next car chase, you may see actually police deploy that. It'll be interesting to see just kind of reaction. Obviously, when they're running, it's a much different target. It's a much different situation. They have to decide how to use it and when to use it.
All right, we'll be right back.